You know, there's a feeling that comes to a soul when you've prayed, and you've believed, and you've stood on the promise, and then heaven seems silent. The road ahead doesn't open up. The phone doesn't ring. The healing doesn't manifest. The relationship doesn't mend. And in that quiet, a terrible question can begin to whisper, was it all for nothing? Did I misunderstand? Has God passed me by? Oh, I know that whisper. I've heard it in the night watches. But what if I told you? What if the Spirit of God impressed upon me to tell you tonight that very silence, that very waiting, that agonizing pause was not your prison, it was your preparation chamber. It was not a denial, it was the most profound form of divine recalculation. Think of it like this. You set out on a journey, your heart full of a destination. You have the map in your hand, you know the way, or so you think. You're making good time, and then suddenly the road you're on ends. It just drops off into a river, or it's closed for construction, or you come to a great, immovable mountain. And you sit there in your car, frustrated, looking at your map, saying, "But this is the way. This is the route I was given." And in that moment, if you listen, a gentle recalibrating voice comes from your heavenly GPS. It doesn't scold you for being on the wrong road. It simply says, recalculating. It's taking your desired destination, the deep cry of your spirit, the promise planted in your heart, and it's factoring in the new terrain, the obstacles you couldn't see, the bridges that are out ahead, the better, greener path that was always there but hidden from your limited view. That season of stuckness, that was the sound of the universe, of the Spirit of the living God, recalculating your route. You thought you were stationary. You thought nothing was happening. But underneath the surface of your life, in the unseen realm where God does his finest work, everything was in motion. Relationships that would have poisoned your future were being gently dissolved. Opportunities that were too small for your destiny were being allowed to pass you by. Your own character, your character, was being tempered in the fire of waiting. You were learning to lean not on your own understanding, to trust not in the speed of your progress, but in the faithfulness of the one who made the promise. You were being weaned from your own timetable and attached to his eternal one. That's not inactivity, my friend. That is the most intense, focused, loving activity of heaven on your behalf. Your spirit has been in a workshop. Have you felt a strange, new discernment lately? A clarity about people and situations that you didn't have before? That was fashioned in the waiting. Have you found old wounds losing their sting, old fears losing their grip? That was healed in the quiet. Have you discovered a strength to say no to what is good, because you are now aligned with what is God? That was forged in the delay. The Almighty wasn't withholding the blessing. He was preparing you to become a container, strong enough, wise enough, and humble enough to carry it without it destroying you. A sudden, overwhelming blessing to an unprepared heart can be a curse, but a blessing to a heart that has been recalibrated, that has had its inner compass reset to true north, that is a partnership. That is a manifestation of glory. So tonight, I want you to look back over that dry season, that confusing season, that season of tears, and I want you to reframe it. Don't see it as a barren desert. See it as a navigation room. Every lonely night was a coordinate being entered. Every tear was a slight adjustment in the course. Every prayer of "How long, O Lord?" was the system confirming your destination. And now, the silence is breaking. The new route has been loaded. The voice that said recalculating is about to say proceed. The path is clear. You are not who you were when you started this journey. You are realigned. You are recalibrated. And because of that, everything, and I mean everything, is now shifting to match the new, true, glorious direction of your soul. The delay is over. Your moment of alignment has come. Isn't it the strangest thing? The very moments we mark in our minds as our greatest defeats, the places where the door slammed shut, where the dream crumbled to dust in our hands, we inscribe those dates on our hearts with the black ink of failure. We wear them like scars. We think, that was the day it all went wrong. But oh, dear heart, what if I told you, what if the Spirit unveiled it to you tonight, that you have your calendar marked all wrong? Those weren't the dates of your defeat. Those were the secret, sacred dates of your divine setup. Every single no that broke your heart was a holy not this way. Every door that locked before you was a protection, not a punishment. Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched a master tailor at work? He has a vision for a glorious garment. He takes the magnificent, costly fabric, and what is the first thing he does with those shears? He cuts it. To the untrained eye, it looks like destruction. It looks like he's taking something whole and beautiful and ruining it. But he isn't. He's cutting away everything that doesn't belong to the final pattern. Every closed door in your life has been a cut of the master tailor's shears. It wasn't to leave you in tatters. It was to remove the pieces that would have prevented you from fitting into the magnificent garment of destiny he is sewing for you right now. That relationship that ended, that was a cut. That job you didn't get, that was a cut. That financial reversal, that was a cut. It felt like loss because you were looking at the discarded scrap on the floor. God was looking at the emerging pattern of glory you are becoming. Think of Joseph, thrown in a pit by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and forgotten in a prison. If ever a man had reason to write dates in the black book of betrayal and setback, it was him, the day of the pit, the day of the prison. Yet, from heaven's vantage point, those weren't setbacks at all. They were strategic setups. The pit saved him from being killed in the field. The slavery brought him to Egypt. The prison positioned him in the very household of Pharaoh's official. Every single terrible step was a calculated move on heaven's chessboard, placing him exactly where he needed to be to save nations and fulfill a promise made to his great-grandfather. He said to his brothers later, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." He could see the setup in the setback. And you are no different. That betrayal you endured, it wasn't about your unworthiness. It was a setup to teach you a discernment about loyalty that you will need to lead. That financial hardship, it wasn't about God's abandonment. It was a setup to force you to develop a creativity and a faith muscle that a life of ease never could. That season of loneliness, it wasn't a sign you were unlovable. It was a setup where the only voice you could hear clearly was the voice of God, and He told you who you really are, away from the noise of the crowd. The enemy of your soul meant those things for your destruction. He sent them as setbacks. But the Almighty God, who turns the counsel of the wicked on its head, intercepted every one. He took the poison meant to kill you and used it as the very medicine that immunized you against future attacks. He took the stones they threw at you and He is now handing them back to you, not for revenge, but as the foundation stones of the palace He's building for you to live in. So tonight, I want you to do a radical thing. I want you to take out that mental calendar and I want you to erase those black marks of failure. I want you to take the pen of the Spirit and, in red ink, write a new title over those dates. Write the setup. Write divine detour. Write the day my protection arrived, because that's what they were. You weren't being rejected, you were being rerouted. You weren't being overlooked, you were being outfitted. The enemy thought he was building a prison for you, but God was using the bricks to build a staircase, every single one of them. And now from this higher place you can look back and see it. The path didn't fall apart. It was being engineered for elevation. Those weren't your endings. They were the necessary plot twists in the story of your favor. You've prayed for it, haven't you? That breakthrough, that healing, that sudden opening. You've prayed for the wind. Favor to fill your sails and send you soaring. And in your spirit, you've perhaps imagined it like a sudden storm, dramatic, overwhelming, sweeping everything before it in a glorious, chaotic rush. But what if the greatest favor God can give isn't a gust that blows you off course, but a current that carries you surely to your destination? What if the blessing you've been begging for requires not just a ready hand to receive it, but a strong hand to hold it, a wise heart to steward it, and a grounded spirit to not be swept away by it? We live in a world that worships haste, instant everything, quick promotions, overnight success. We see the highlight reel of someone else's life and we think, that's how it's supposed to happen for me, now, fast. But God is not a God of haste, He is a God of harvest. And every harvest has a non-negotiable season of growth that cannot be seen. It happens underground. in the dark, in the patient waiting. The seed doesn't beg the farmer to rip it from the soil the moment it sprouts. It knows, in its very DNA, that it must push roots down deep, deeper than what is visible, because the height of the future stalk, the weight of the coming fruit, depends entirely on the hidden, foundational strength of what is being built unseen. Your season of waiting was your root-growing season, and heaven will not allow a shallow-rooted tree to bear a heavy, lasting blessing. It would topple in the first strong wind. Think of the prophet Elijah. He prayed for drought, and it came. He confronted kings. He called down fire from heaven on Mount Carmel in one of the most spectacular displays of power you could imagine. But what happened next? A single threat from Queen Jezebel, and this mighty prophet ran for his life, collapsed under a broom tree, and prayed to die. Why? Because a sudden spectacular victory to a soul not prepared for the battle can be devastating. God had to take him to a cave, not for another show of power, but for a lesson in the still small voice. He had to recalibrate his servant's heart, to move him from the drama of the external to the depth of the internal. God was preparing him not just to operate in power, but to live from a place of unshakable peace. The fire on Carmel was the blessing. The cave was the preparation to hold the blessing without being destroyed by the jealousy and fear it provoked. That is what has been happening to you. God isn't just interested in giving you the promotion, He's been building in you the integrity to lead in it without corruption. He isn't just interested in healing your body. He's been nurturing in you a testimony of faith that will heal others when you speak. He isn't just interested in bringing the right relationship, He's been surgically removing from you the neediness and insecurity that would have sabotaged it a few years ago. The delay was your development, the pause was your protection. You were being made a match for the magnitude of the mercy heading your way. You see, a sudden, unearned windfall can ruin a person, but a blessing that finds a heart that has been prepared in the secret place, a heart that has learned gratitude in scarcity, faith in silence, and strength in surrender. That blessing doesn't just land, it takes root, it multiplies, it becomes sustainable, it becomes generational. God isn't giving you a fleeting moment of luck. He is establishing a permanent dwelling place of favor, and a palace cannot be built on a foundation that was poured yesterday. It must cure, it must settle, it must become one with the earth beneath it. So when you felt the ache of the weight, that was the ache of your capacity expanding. When you had to exercise patience, you were building the spiritual muscle to carry weight without stumbling. Again, you had to trust in the dark. You are developing the inner navigation system that will guide you when the blessing brings with it its own set of complexities and choices. You are not the same person who first prayed that prayer. You are stronger. You are wiser. You are more deeply anchored in what is real. And because of that, the favor that is now shifting toward you will not be a burden. It will be a perfect fit. It will not overwhelm you. It will fulfill you. The timing wasn't late. It was perfect, because now you are ready. The blessing has found its prepared vessel. So many of us have been taught to look for favor like a prize at the end of a brutal race. We picture it as a trophy we seize after a final, exhausting sprint, something we clutch with sweat-stained hands and aching muscles, a reward for our striving. But I feel compelled to tell you tonight that the favor now shifting toward you doesn't feel like the end of a race. It feels like catching the current in a sailboat. You're not straining at the oars anymore. You're not fighting the waves. There's a quiet, powerful shift in the wind, and you simply raise your sail, the sail of your expectation, your faith, your surrendered will, and suddenly you are moving, effortlessly, swiftly, with a grace that humbles you. This is the favor of alignment. It's not just something you get, it's a realm you begin to inhabit. You'll know it by the divine synchronicity. It's the thought of a friend you haven't spoken to in months, and in that same moment, your phone rings and it's them, speaking the exact word you needed to hear. It's the scripture that jumps off the page at you in the morning, and then in the afternoon, a perfect stranger will echo that same phrase back to you in casual conversation, confirming your path. It's the idea that comes to you in the shower, a solution, a creative spark, and as you begin to explore it, You find doors opening before you can even knock. Resources appear. The right people are drawn to you. It's as if your entire life becomes a series of whispered confirmations, of heavenly winks, all saying, "You are on the right track. Keep going. I am with you." This is the universe, the divine order, honoring the work that has been done in you during the recalibration. When your internal compass was spinning, you bumped into every wall. You forced connections that fizzled. You pursued opportunities that drained you. Why? Because you were out of sync with your own destiny's frequency. But now, having been through the fire of waiting, having had your motives purified and your desires aligned with something greater than yourself, you are emitting a new signal. And the spiritual law of attraction, no, a higher law, the law of divine appointment, is now in effect. You are attracting what matches you. The blessing isn't chasing you. You and the blessing are moving toward each other on a collision course of grace, guided by the same hand. You see, striving is born of fear. The fear that if you don't make it happen, it won't happen. But flow is born of trust, the absolute settled knowing that it is happening, and your role is not to manufacture it, but to cooperate with it. It's the difference between a child desperately digging in the sand for a treasure and a child simply holding out their hand to receive a beautiful shell from the ocean as the wave gently lays it at their feet. The wave does the work. The ocean holds the abundance. The child's only job is to be there, on the shore, with an open hand and a watching eye. Your season of striving was the digging. This new season is about recognizing the wave and presenting an open hand. Watch for the ease. I'm not saying there won't be work. There will be glorious, fulfilling work. But it will be work tea. Hat doesn't deplete you. It enlivens you. It will be a natural extension of who you are and what you love. The resistance you used to face will lessen. The opposition will find its plans confused and its weapons useless against the peace that surrounds you. Favor will manifest as a supernatural momentum where your small, faithful steps are met with disproportionate results. Where you sow a little, you will reap much. Where you show a little kindness, it will return to you as a lifeline. You will find yourself saying, "This shouldn't be this easy," and that's your clue. That's the fingerprint of God. That's the universe leaning in your favor. It is the deep soul knowing that you are no longer laboring alone. You are in cooperation with the benevolent, omnipotent force that is for you. Your prayers shift from desperate petitions to grateful conversations. Your actions shift from anxious striving to confident stewardship of the opportunities that gently land in your lap. You begin to move through your days with a quiet awe, watching the puzzle pieces, the ones you've been holding for so long, the ones you lost and grieved over, suddenly find their perfect place. And you realize with a shock of joy that the puzzle is far grander, far more beautiful than the small picture you had been trying to assemble on your own. You are entering the flow. The struggle was real, but it is ceasing. Now watch for the synchronicity, listen for the echoes, feel for the current, and when it comes, don't question it. Don't sabotage it with old stories of unworthiness. Just raise your sail. The tide of grace has turned, and it is carrying you home. Now this is where so many good people falter. They pray through the storm. They stand firm in the battle. They endure the long night of the soul with a faith that moves mountains. But then, when the first light of dawn breaks, when the wind finally shifts to their backs, they freeze. They stand on the brink of the new thing, looking back at the familiar ruins of the old, and something in them hesitates. Why? Because the warfare of the past required one kind of strength. The strength to resist, to hold on, to endure. But the blessing of the future requires a different kind of strength entirely. The strength to release and the courage to receive. Listen to me carefully. Your primary work in this new season is not striving. It's not proving. It's not laboring to make yourself worthy. That work was finished in the hidden place. Your work now is twofold, and it is deceptively simple, yet profoundly difficult for a heart trained in struggle. First, release. Second, cultivate receptivity. Release. You must, with a deliberate and solemn act of your will, let go of the old narratives. You have to drop the sack of stones you've been carrying. The stones of past failure, of old rejections, of that voice that still whispers not enough. You've carried them so long they feel like part of your bones, but they are not you. They are the ballast from a ship that was meant for stormy seas. You are now entering calm waters and following currents of favor. That old weight will only keep you from soaring. You must release the identity of the struggler, the victim of circumstance, the one who always has to fight for scraps. That story is over. It served its purpose. It made you strong. But you are not that person anymore. To step into a new chapter, you must close the old book. Forgive the old debts, not because they weren't real, but because your future is too valuable to mortgage it to your past. And then you must cultivate receptivity. This is the active practice of the open heart. It is expecting good. It is looking for the evidence of the shift with the eyes of faith, not the eyes of cynicism. It is practicing gratitude for the blessing before it fully materializes, because gratitude is the posture that welcomes it in. It is saying yes to the unexpected opportunity that looks different from the one you pictured, because you trust the giver more than you trust your own limited blueprint. Think of the Israelites at the edge of the Promised Land. For 40 years, their work was wandering, surviving, following a cloud. But when they finally stood at the Jordan, their work changed. God didn't say, fight harder, strive more. He said, consecrate yourselves, sanctify yourselves. For tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. Their job was to prepare their hearts, to release the slave mentality of Egypt, and to cultivate a readiness to receive a land they did not build and vineyards they did not plant. Their job was to pick up the Ark of the Covenant, the symbol of God's presence and promise, and step into a flooded river, believing it would part. The parting was God's work. The stepping was theirs. This is your Jordan moment. You are being called to consecrate your expectation, to sanctify your imagination, to believe for wonders tomorrow. How? By releasing the how and the when from your white-knuckled grip, by opening your hands, palms up, in a posture of surrender and readiness. You must become a living invitation. You must create a spiritual and emotional space for the blessing to land. Clean out the clutter of doubt. Make room in your schedule for divine appointments. Protect your peace like the precious oil it is. Your vibration, that energy you emit from your thoughts, your words, your beliefs, must shift from the frequency of pleading to the frequency of poised expectancy. Do you feel that strange tension? That's the old skin of struggle resisting the new life trying to emerge. Shed it. Let it go. The fight is over. The favor is here. Your only task is to not cling to the familiar chains of the past. Stop rehearsing the old sad stories. Stop building your future on the foundation of old injuries. The ground has shifted. You need new blueprints. So tonight, I want you to do a spiritual transaction. In your mind, see yourself taking that heavy old sack, labeled my past struggles, my disappointments, what they did to me, and I want you to lay it down at the foot of an old rugged cross. Leave it there. It's not yours to carry anymore. Then I want you to open your empty hands, lift them up, and begin to give thanks. Thank Him for the new thing you cannot yet see. Thank Him for the favor that is even now searching for your address. Thank Him for making you ready. This thanksgiving is not denial, it is faith taking possession. It is the key turning in the lock of your promised future. The struggle was your training. Receiving is your victory. Now, open your hands. The gift is descending. And now we come to the heart of it all, the ultimate secret. You've been waiting for the external shift. You've been watching the horizon for the sign, listening for the knock, checking your hands for the tangible proof that the struggle is over and the blessing has come. But what if the most monumental shift has already occurred? And what if it didn't happen to you, but within you? The circumstances around you are merely the universe, in its own slow and certain way, catching up to a revolution that has already been accomplished in the hidden places of your spirit. You are the constant in this great change, not your job, not your bank account, not your relationship status. You, the you that walked through the fire and did not burn, the you that was pressed but not crushed, the you that waited in the darkness and learned to sing before the dawn, that you is the fixed point, the North Star, around which all this new favor is now orbiting. Don't you see the blessing is not changing you? It is confirming you. It is answering back to the new person you became when no one was watching. The promotion is just a piece of paper echoing the leadership you've already shown in the wilderness. The healing is just your body aligning with the wholeness your spirit has already claimed. The breakthrough is just the visible manifestation of the private victory you won on your knees. This is why you must move forward now, not with the desperation of a refugee, but with the deliberate intention of a steward. A steward is someone entrusted with another's wealth. They did not create it, but they are responsible for its management, for its growth, for its use according to the owner's will. You have been entrusted with something more valuable than gold, a transformed spirit, a proven character, a heart that knows its God. And now, the external resources, the opportunities, the platforms, they are flowing to you not because you lucked out, but because you have been deemed trustworthy to steward them well, to use them not just for your own comfort, but for the blessing of others, to build not just a bigger house, but a wider table. Do you remember the feeling of that old, brittle strength, the kind where you had to clench your fists and grit your teeth just to get through the day? That strength was real, and God honored it. But it was a reactive strength. It was strength against something. The strength you have now, forged in surrender, tempered in trust, is a different substance altogether. It is a proactive, creative strength. It is strength for something. It is the strength to build, to plant, to create, to bless. Your proven resilience is not a tool to brace yourself for the next blow. That season is over. It is the foundation upon which you will now construct a life of such abundance and generosity that it becomes a monument to grace. So, how do you step into this? With sovereignty, with holy intention. You are no longer a leaf blown by the winds of circumstance. You are the planter of trees. You get to decide, from this place of unshakable inner victory, what you will build. You will look at the new resources, the new influence, the new peace, and you will ask the one vital question: how shall I use this, Lord, to glorify you and to advance the kingdom of heaven on earth? You will use your story of redemption to pull others from their pit. You will use your financial blessing to feed the hungry and support the visionary. You will use your hard-won peace to be a sanctuary for the weary. The favor is not a private pool for you to splash in alone. It is a river meant to flow through you to a parched world. This is the culmination of everything. The recalibration was to get you to this point of inner alignment. The setbacks were setups to build this unshakable foundation. The waiting was to develop this capacity. The flow is the environment for this stewardship. The release was to make room for this mission. You have been brought to a kingdom such as this, for such a time as this, not merely to enjoy it, but to administer it. Therefore, move forward boldly, but move forward consciously. You are not escaping your past. You are deploying its lessons. You carry within you the living proof that night gives way to morning, that weeping endures for a night, but joy comes in the morning. You are that joy. You are that morning. And now, the world around you is about to see what you've already become in the dark. The shift was never out there. It was in here. And now, the inside is about to become the outside for all the world to see. Go and build from your victory.